so inconsistent?
Construction's hard.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Construction is Hard podcast. I'm Brian Witt. This is Gary Fox to my left. We are today talking about the last of our 6 pillars or trusses or components of a workforce management practice. So it's been quite a ride so far. We're excited to get to this last topic, productivity or earned value analysis, the specific approach to productivity that we want to highlight today. This is going to be an interesting topic. This is a topic near and dear to Gary and myself, and it's something that is in the industry, but it's fuzzy. It can be hazy, and I say that there's different ways of going about it, and it's not a very clear and concise topic yet in the world of construction. And we're going to try to break it down. But the first thing and the big thing that we really want to achieve today, I believe, is the subtle difference between productivity and an earned value analysis approach. So with that, if you've been tracking our other episodes, we've talked about this workforce management category. We've talked about building a business practice with people, process, technology. We've talked about having a tool fit to the task. And now we have gone through all of the other trusses or categories that are symbiotic. And productivity is no different. So we will be actually tying productivity back to the forecast and the scheduled labor plans in a key way. But we talked about the forecast. Number 1, we've talked about the roster. Number 2, we've talked about the schedule. Number 3, we've talked about the communications. Number 4, and we've talked about information. Number 5, number 6 today. Finally, we're into productivity and earned value analysis. So with that, productivity. Defining productivity first, units of work placed or produced per man hour, specific to labor productivity. As far as the definition of earned value analysis, thanks to our friend Dr. Awad Hanna, earned value analysis, purely a measure of productivity, a management and project tracking technique that compares work installed to work estimated, allows managers to predict problems early enough to allow for corrective action. That's the key part there that I have been so vehemently instructed by my counterpart as the key difference.
You're listening.
I'm trying.
You're starting to swing. I'm impressed.
I talk a lot. Sometimes I listen. But with that's the key that we want to talk through today is assessing if there's a need for corrective action, but allowing time for the corrective action. And this is the subtle difference between just productivity and earned value. And earned value is what we're striving for. That's what we know and have seen changes the game in workforce management. The idea there is if a correction to the course is needed, how do I go about that? Comparing back to the labor plan, as we talked about in episodes 1 and 2 with the labor planning versus the forecast. Labor plans accrue into the forecast, scheduling people to those plans, knowing specifically when they should and should not be on that job. This is the key. This is what brings the whole cycle back together. Hell, your guys' journey, when I first started talking to you, labor plans and earned value.
This is a big one. There's books written, 500 pages long, just on earned value alone. It's a complicated, tough subject to try to boil down into, a concise period of time. But I think to start out with, we got to make sure that we're keeping this in mind, that the earned value analysis is purely a measure of productivity. They aren't one and the same. You have the productivity rate here, and you have earned value analysis here, and you use the earned value analysis to measure your level of productivity. The issue is in construction is how accurate is your earned value analysis? And you're using that earned value analysis to put into your monthly projections by project, which then get rolled up into your work in progress report, your WIP, and it's driving the financials of the company. So if the earned value analysis is not accurate, then really your financials are not accurate. And leaders of the company need to know. They need to know the direction that the company is going, and what kind of profits they are truly making, what kind of investments they can make based on their financial information. So, I mean, this is really critical, and this is probably one of the hardest things to get your arms around and really start to understand what the key issues are here. The good thing is there's help out there to be able to improve your earned value analysis. And that is labor planning.
Let me stress how important this is, but also how rare and hard it is to get this piece in place. It is the last of our 6 trusses and categories for a reason, because this is the one where when this comes together, it's worth it though. You don't let it drop off. You can't stop at 5 out of 6. You got to have the 6th one because it's so impactful on profits, on maintaining the profits we anticipate to pull off of each job, or squeezing them for more, getting more out of our job, and doing all this with the same workforce. Getting more, not doing more with less, getting more with less. And this earned value piece, think of it as the groups that we've come across. I can name on maybe 2 hands how many groups we've come across that can tell us explicitly, this is the process we use for earned value, this is the tool we use, this is who does it, this is how they course correct and when they course correct, where it happens, yada, yada. There are not a lot of companies out there that have the whole thing tied together. But when we do come across them and when we get to speak with them, I'm thinking of a group, some friends of ours up north, they kill it. I mean, we're talking entire percentage points higher on their business profit margins. It is a big deal.
They're comparing their labor plan to their earned value analysis, what they're doing. That's what makes them unique. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of companies out there that are doing earned value analysis, and without comparing it to the labor plan.
Yes, that's right.
Those companies are the ones are wondering, why is it that when we get to the final 20% of a project and we think we're doing very well financially on the project, we're bringing everything in on budget, and in that last 20% we lose all of our expected profits. And that tells you that their earned value analysis is off. In most cases, they have taken too much profit early in the project, and now time is catching up to them. You know, for an example, say that you're at 80% complete and you thought you were 5% ahead with your productivity rate. Well, now in that last 15 to 20% of time, you don't have enough time to make it up. And so if that scenario builds on itself, what's going to happen is some contractors call it bleeding out. I like that one. I call it the monsoon. It starts to rain and you can't stop it. It's too late to correct your course. And now all you can do, because you have to complete on time, all you can do is start throwing money at the project. And then what happens is, as you start extending these people out farther than what you had anticipated, now you need more supervision. You need additional tools. The workers that were intended to come off of that job and go on to the next job aren't available. And all these things become a huge problem and creates labor shortages that you didn't need to create because you didn't manage the project right early enough in the game.
With the labor plan.
With the labor plan. So the key is to develop a labor plan, know what your anticipated labor consumption is going to be, monitor the plan against the actuals, what is really happening, and then on a monthly basis, when you do your earned value analysis, compare it to your labor plan. That's the key, because they should agree. If you're telling your labor managers one thing and you're telling your financial people a different story, and no one has taken the time to see if these two stories are in sync with one another, you have a problem. Now, if you recognize that problem, and you're monitoring it properly early enough in the project, you have 70% of the time to take corrective action instead of 20. And you're going to monitor that when that project gets to peak. You're going to know when it gets to peak. You're going to be able to develop your exit strategies. You're going to be able to reduce the quantity of people on that job in an orderly fashion. And chances are you're going to beat your labor budget. A good chance of that. The other beauty of that is you stabilize your WIP. Because if you're doing that on every project, your WIP stabilizes. The leaders have the confidence that the financials they're looking at are correct. The labor managers have the confidence that what they're doing to manage the job is in lockstep with the financials. And a calm falls over the workplace. This controlled chaos thing kind of goes away because you have all these people collaborating and looking at the right things in real time. It is, in my mind, it's probably one of the, if not the most important thing a contractor can do, is to tackle this earned value analysis and their labor planning and bring them together to help monitor what's going on, or you're basically flying the plane with a blindfold on. Financially, you could be whistling past the graveyard and not know it. So it's a pretty important topic.
And you mentioned comparing the WIP against the labor plans. That there's a place there that as an operational leader, I can go to see job A, B, C, D, E, F. Are they all in line? Like I can go to one place and I can see, are we on track? And this goes back to our other trusses or categories of workforce management. We just talked about information not long ago. If that information is not ever in a place where I can actually tie them together, or if I am not communicating it effectively, I might be comparing numbers that are out of date or inaccurate, or I don't even have a place to truly come together and say, WIPs, plans, are we all back in sync? And in that case, I'm just hoping and praying that, hey, when we get to the end, we're going to hold on, versus being able to definitively see, are we on track? Are things lined up?
And it takes a team. There's no one person. You cannot expect a general superintendent, a labor manager, to analyze the earned value and the labor plan in a vacuum, right? You got to get really solid, good information from the project manager who has been talking to the people on site. 2-week look-aheads become relevant. They're not just a process that management is forced upon you that really doesn't get utilized. All these things start lining up. So it does take a team to be able to do this in the proper fashion. And we had ways to lay, and still do have ways to lay earned value analysis alongside the labor plan at any particular point in time. And if they didn't match, big red flag would pop up, and the question would get asked, why? Why aren't these two things in sync? Could be the earned value analysis is off. Could be the labor plan isn't being followed, or there's opportunities we had to pull the job ahead, and so the management team decided to pump people into the project sooner than expected because they know that it's going to be a more productive way to do it. For example, conduit going up above a grid ceiling. If they have to get in there sooner to make sure that all this gets done before the ceiling grid goes up, then that's a good justification to add the additional men and kind of ride that over the top of the planned labor curve for a short period of time. But when you do that, there's a recovery plan in place already, because you have to bring it back and you have to lock it up with your earned value. So both of them could be a little bit off, but you're always fine-tuning it. And for the first time with these tools and these labor curves, first time that I've been aware of, and it's been around for a while now, you have a solid mechanism in place to be able to enhance and improve your earned value analysis. And when that happens, you have no more labor or profit fade at the 80% mark, the 70 to 80% mark. That goes away. And that is nothing but pure gold. That's money to the bottom line. It is a golden thing.
We have the tools Gary's talking about to bring everybody together first off. So breaking down kind of some of what Gary just went through there, we have the tool to where day in and day out, all my people from the field to the office are in the same place. So I know when I am getting these, my productivity, my earned value analysis, when I am comparing it to that plan, I know the rest of my team is also seeing it. So when I'm looking at those WIPs and they're lined up to the EVA or the earned value analysis, I know that this is not just a report on my desk that finance sent over. I know this is coming from my entire team across the organization boiling up. And we talked about information. It's in real time because I'm not sending one spreadsheet to another. I'm not waiting for somebody to email me, their latest and greatest from the look ahead or something 2 weeks ago. It's all right then, and it's all right there.
You separate them.
Yeah.
Project manager's over here doing his thing on his earned value, and the superintendent's over here doing his own thing on the labor plan, right? The project manager and the field foreman decide, I think we're 5% ahead of where we should be. And they take that. They take that in their earned value analysis. And if there isn't a mechanism in place to make sure that when you do that, you have to readjust your labor curve. You have to reduce the amount of labor that you planned on using, so if you have to readjust the curve. Well, if you don't do that and you meet the superintendent in the hallway and you pass by and say, well, I just took 5%. I think we're really doing great on the project. And the superintendent could say, like, well, I hope you're right. We'll give it our best shot. Well, both of them are at fault. Right? They took the profit financially without a mechanism in place to reduce the amount of people that are going to be needed. You have to reduce the amount of labor hours now to match that 5% that the project manager took. And it's pretty easy to just float along that original plan and not readjust your labor curve. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose that 5% in the last 20% of the job. That's guaranteed.
And when it becomes,
and because these guys, you don't need those people there, right? But human beings are human beings, and if management says we need 10. Now you've got every guy on that job working at probably about 80%, 70% efficiency, instead of trying to get them to 100, where that's your earned value target, is matching your productivity to your labor budget.
I think what we're really getting at today is everyone's doing productivity. We already know that. You've got your core 3 methods. You have your inventory method, materials, install method, or the percent complete method, some kind of typical main 3 approaches. Maybe you're doing multiple on the big jobs, but maybe not all the jobs. What we're getting at here is, okay, we all know we're doing productivity. What we're offering and what we're really trying to convey today is that earned value is when I look at that productivity and I assess kind of my trajectory, and if it doesn't look right, or if it looks good and I have a chance to manipulate it, I have a chance to have control over my trajectory. And what we're offering up, I think, today is one of the ways to maximize or course correct or manipulate my trajectory is through the labor plan. And that's what's not commonly out there today. That's what only a handful of groups that we've spoken to are really doing. Is I have the ability to say, okay, I know where we're at. My productivity is good. I know there's a reason for course correction. What is the method or the tool or the process that we're going to ask our people to do that? Go to the labor plan, because we have discipline and we're labor planning every job because our teams are all in one place and have access to the appropriate information with controlled transparency, because we have a place to train them to know what to do when these signs arise. Now we can tell our people, go back to the labor plan, pull off one of those requests, pull in those assignment end dates a little bit further. And by the way, when you do that, my other team member is going to know, hey, we've got these people available one day earlier. How do we maximize them on the next job? Versus, we've talked about in the past, scheduling ourselves into a labor shortage where they stay on the job too long, we don't have them. But we have a tool now where we can take earned value and we can channel it somewhere. We can do something about it.
Self-inflicted labor shortages are bad.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's called an analysis, earned value analysis, a monthly projection, because that's just exactly what they are, analogy and a projection. It's you gather all the information you possibly can, you do the best job you can to tie all of it together, but you're still making a projection. You're making a guess, right? The reality is the labor force on the job. That's the reality. So if you can't bring the reality part of it together with the projection, then who knows what's going to happen. You really have no control at that point. The only thing you really could do is write it right out to the end. Okay? So we're on our labor plan. I'm not going to take any additional profits. I'm not going to take any additional losses. I'm going to stay right on track with my earned value. Well, at some point, that's going to change. I have never seen a project that hit dead nuts on the labor budget. Doesn't happen. If it does, go buy a lottery ticket. Because,
lucky day.
Yeah, it'd be your lucky day. That's for sure. And so then what happens in that last 10%, that project manager now has to decide, okay, I'm taking a loss or I'm taking additional profit. Well, what would you rather do? Take a loss or take a profit? Well, obviously you'd rather take a profit, right? But that's not good enough for the financial guys, because there's 10% of the money that they could have taken and invested into another project, maybe invested it into some more tools. So the financial guys want it accurate. They don't want people sandbagging and then taking a big chunk of money at the end of the job either. So losses are bad, but taking a big chunk of money when unexpectedly is not well received with the financial people.
Well, you can't run a consistent business.
Right. It's your EKG, your WIP, without this process that we're talking about, looks like an EKG. It's bouncing all over the place because it's an aggregate of all your jobs, right? And so job A is bouncing all over the place, job B is bouncing all over. They're not lined up because they're at different phases of time, and nothing stabilizes. And then every month someone's getting their ass chewed because they weren't accurate enough with their earned value analysis. Why is this? Why is that? Why are we losing this money in this last 20%? It's a chronic problem throughout the electrical contracting industry, and probably mechanical as well. But I can speak to electrical, and once you figure out what the root cause of that is and address it with these platforms and with the resource profiling that I talk about quite a bit, now you have a real valuable tool in place to really help increase your bottom line.
And again, this is a convoluted topic. We could get into the different approaches to productivity, where some things go wrong, where technology could help in that area. There's all kinds of, everybody knows, there's timekeeping softwares for days out there. There's ones that do geo-tracking, retinal scans, whatever, Is it the individual clocking? Is it a manager or a foreman that's going to dictate or input time? This, that, and the other, the different methods and steps to getting to productivity. We don't have time to talk. They're all over the place too. But we're all doing this stuff today. The thing, as we talk through and kind of begin the ramp down or the close on this piece, is if you don't have a labor plan on every job, there is no opportunity for course correction because you don't know what the course is. or you don't know what it's supposed to be. So how do you course correct when you don't know if you've got 10 miles left to go or 2? How are you going to course correct if you don't know what your pace has been or what your pace should be? How do I scale down my, do I decelerate? Am I accelerating? Is it time to ramp up or is it time to ramp down on the job? I am getting to a certain point and I'm basically taking my WAG, my wild ass guess at, here's where I think we're at, here's what the earned value says, but if I don't have that labor plan, I'm wasting it.
He would tell the apprentices, is you're going to listen to me or going to be a dumbass the rest of your life? Problem was,
so are you going to listen to me or are you going to be a dumbass the rest of your life?
Yeah. So the problem was that the apprentices were a lot smarter than he was.
Yeah, well, that might be a similar gig going on. No, really, we're just talking. This is Gary's. I won't say life's work. You've done a lot. You got a lot of grandkids. You got a lot to be proud of. But this is one of Gary's like coup d'etat, top of the mark things, this earned value analysis. And the moment, it took me a long time of you telling me and pounding into my head of why this was important. And then when it all clicked, it's going, this is what it's all about. This is how we take workforce management and it becomes a circle instead of, it's not job cycle. It's not starting and stopping at the beginning of the project to the end of the project. It is a continuous cycle through the project and on to the next project. And this earned value analysis tying to the labor plan, I think, is the epitome. It's the net null. It's the end state of what this looks like.
Yeah, it's what I call getting people to the aha moment. You're training project managers, and they're used to getting beat up on the inaccuracy of the earned value analysis. They're just kind of calloused over to it. And when you start talking to them about this, they kind of turn a deaf ear until you keep explaining why this is so important, and the labor managers why this is so important. And when you get them to that aha moment, you can see it. There's just a big light comes on there, and now that person is going to labor plan every project. He's going to use his earned value analysis in the proper way. The foreman will start looking forward to filling out the 2-week look-aheads, and the project manager realizes now he needs those as a tool to make an accurate earned value analysis and to help monitor the labor curve. So, this is huge. This is, in my mind, probably the holy grail. This topic, you can go on and I can talk for days on this.
How long did it take you to get to this?
Well, I was in electrical construction for 40 plus years, and for probably 30 years, I just figured we sucked. That's just the way it is. Construction's hard, right? Doesn't have to be, but construction's hard. And so this is just the nature of the beast. Everybody loses money in the last 20%. What are we supposed to do? We didn't hold anybody accountable. There was plenty of escape hatches for everyone when you tried to pin anybody down on what was going on, and not so much they were making excuses. They just didn't know.
And it wasn't feasible.
And
what were they supposed to do?
And so, I decided to set out on a mission to figure out just what is really happening. And when I started looking at these labor curves and started, monitoring what was going on with the labor curves and as opposed to earned value, and realized that now with the platform the way it is, that you're getting real-time information, now you've got a tool. And I don't think that it's a very easy thing to do without the tool, the platform. So, that's when it all started coming together. And then we had a project. It was a large hospital project. While I'm doing this and trying to figure out what was going on, and it was just a disaster. It was really starting to run over budget. We had a lot of problems with the labor force. We were working outside of our local, and we had to do something to try to mitigate the damage and get out of that project as soon as possible. So what I did was things that I'd done in the past when I was a field foreman or maybe a general foreman. I would do a punch list. We're about 80% through, and I'd send people out. I'd go out and look at every aspect of the job that needed to be completed and write down every task and assign labor hours to it. And then form a labor plan from that information moving forward, basically an exit plan, right? So we know we have 2,000 hours of labor to expend yet, because we've had several people look at it, give their opinions. We've kind of brought together, come to an agreement that, okay, this is our most accurate estimate of what it's going to take to finish this project. And those estimates were usually pretty spot on. So we did that on that project. And I started to ask myself, why don't we do that on every project? Whether it's heading south or whether it's on track, we should do this on every project. And so we put that practice in place. And what happens is it ties all the loose ends together. Your real punch list that the owner puts out toward the end of the project is minimal. You've already addressed the issues in a well thought out, coordinated manner. You're pulling people off the job in a timely fashion. You're bringing jobs in that normally would have ran over budget, and you're starting to bring them in at or under the budget because you're doing that exit strategy at the end of the project or toward the end of the project. That is another real advantage of having a labor curve, resource profile, because now when you start doing that, you've got that exit plan down and that earned value analysis on cruise control at that point. You don't have any room to wiggle anyway, so it's gonna become reality, right? People have a tendency to hang on to people longer than they need to because they're in fear of they're not gonna hit the deadline. So when you get the crew's buy-in, then when you start peeling people away, they're going to resist, but you can do it in confidence because you know what it's really going to take.
And they're bought into it. This is a process.
Right.
They can see what's going on. We've got communication channels and everything where everyone's consolidated. They understand the why. And I think that's part of your all's superpower when you would put these practices in place. Hey, this is why. Let's take the losses and let's adjust. Let's truly evolve versus react. Everything Gary's taught, 30 years we thought we sucked. You guys were actually ahead of the entire industry. We found out later. And I can say this firsthand. I've spoken to more organizations about workforce management than probably any other person under the sun at this point. Just got lucky, just had the tool that gave us the excuse to ask contractors about what's going on at the heart of their business in this workforce management area. And it turns out your group is doing it better than almost anybody else I'd come across. There's maybe a handful that were doing the similar things. And these groups, you all know who you are. I've talked to you. You guys, you're ahead of the curve, and it's just the beginning. All these groups are now looking for the next big thing and the next big thing. And we want to let the other groups that we haven't had a chance to speak with, or maybe you're doing something incredible that can help push this whole category forward. That's why we're doing this. That's why we got this podcast here. That's what we're trying to share, is just that it was hard without the tool. It was almost not feasible without the tool. The tool's there today. These are things that are getting to be widely accepted and adapted and evolving, and we can do them better in this industry. The tools are out there. Again, it's what we're trying to achieve, but it doesn't happen overnight. That's why I bring all this up. How long did it take you guys, et cetera? Is if you're watching this series and you're going, yeah, we schedule people to a job. We take Bill, Bob, and George, and they go to job A, and that's our jobs. That's how our projects go. We don't do long-term planning. Long-term planning is relative. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 3 years in some people's cases. But it doesn't change the fact that when you take those 3 people, you put them on that job, you are saying they're going to be there indefinitely. You might not think it, but that's what you're saying when you put them there and you don't define an end date. You take away all opportunity to have a real labor plan. You take away all opportunity to, get them onto the next job, to have a curve, to have earned value, to have a chance to course correct. These things don't happen overnight, is what I'm trying to say. That takes groups a journey. It's a true journey through workforce management, through each of these 6 pillars that we've been talking about. You really have to focus on all of them together, but you can develop certain ones faster intentionally. And usually groups develop that schedule, the roster, the forecast, and then they get into these things because the door is unlocked. They can start to see what's going on. They've got it all in one place. I would stress it's important to be able to take that journey because it's different for everybody. But if you are using these trusses, these pillars, these categories of workforce management to help you just guide along that journey, like checkpoints along the journey, you might be surprised how much faster you can get there because there have been groups like you alongside you who have been trying to tackle these exact same challenges ahead or right alongside you. And we're hoping to spread the word.
Once you put this behind you, and this becomes common practice throughout your company, now you can address other productivity issues in the right way, right? You've got value-added labor. Try to increase your value-added labor. What's that mean? Well, when your electrician is walking around the job site trying to find a half-inch coupling that was in the gang box yesterday, but what happened was his co-worker came up and he needed one, so he grabbed the entire box and took it down to the 3rd floor. Well, you're on the 5th floor. Now you're running around the job site trying to find a coupling to finish it. You could walk around for a half hour trying to find it, and then when you do, you find them laying on the floor. The box got rained on and they're kicked all over the place, and you've basically lost a box of couplings, right? And so you get to start looking at your how you're managing your inventory on the job site. Do you have a vendor, a VMI, vendor managed inventory, and have them make sure that your material is well stocked so there's no delays in the installation process. Prefabrication, extended lunch times, extended break times, late starts, all these things that affect your productivity level can now get addressed because you've put this labor management issue pretty much to bed, and now you can start really hitting some things that are costing you on your productivity side as well and costing you a lot of money. This is a big deal. I would encourage everybody to engage themselves in this.
I'm out of bourbon, so
if you don't,
did we miss anything?
Yeah. I could go on for a long time on this one, but you can tell it's my passion.
It's not something totally revolutionary. We didn't find out the meaning of life here. We get it. But looking at these things in just a slightly different perspective, looking at it not as productivity, but rather as earned value analysis, which means I want to take a proactive approach. I want more out of my productivity. I want to do more with my productivity analysis. I want to course correct. I want to go back to the labor plan. I want to get more, do more with less or with the same amount of people I have today. We hope that this helps. We hope that this has sort of come full circle by tying all this back to that labor plan. We genuinely hope that this series so far, we're not done, by the way. It sounds like we're signing off. This is just the end of a big chapter in the Construction is Hard podcast. This is our workforce management series, and this is us starting to kind of close the building blocks of what makes that. Now we're going to be able to get into some very specific scenarios like margin fade or the bleeding out aspect that Gary hit on there. We're going to be able to get into the dreaded labor meeting, all these kind of different things. We'll have more guests joining us as well. There's a lot going on around workforce management, around construction tech, and we're excited to bring those people together. So there's far more to come, but we hope this has been productive, and construction is hard.
But it doesn't have to be.
We are here to talk about workforce management. Why is it so inconsistent?
Construction is hard.